Hello, I just wanted to make a quick introduction video about this DIY thrust test stand that I've been working on off and on for a couple of months now. I'll have to make a better explanation of how everything fits together later on because I'm hoping to open source the program and let other people try it out if they want to give it a shot and contribute their results of their tests. So this video is just going to be very briefly explaining the capabilities of the thrust test stand and a quick look at using it. So there's a bunch of things stuck onto a sawhorse. This is just a few bits of wood stuck together. It doesn't really matter what it's on, but I wanted to be able to strap it down securely. Just, you know, I didn't want to have it a lightweight thing, so I wanted it to be heavy so it wasn't going to go anywhere. And that's what the big tank of water is there for. I actually had that strapped around the center of the sawhorse to hold it down with about 10 kilos of weight, but with this little prop here it doesn't really matter. And in fact I'm thinking that even with the big props it's probably not going to be an issue, but just in case, I do have the means to hold it down quite firmly. So what have we got on here? At the end there is a motor and propeller, and that is stuck onto a half of a ZMR 250 arm at the moment, and that is attached to the load cell that I made a video about a while ago, and that is attached to this big old door hinge that I bought at the hardware store, and that's bolted down to the sawhorse. And on the other side of that, which you may not be able to see very well, oops, battery fell off, the load cell is of course connected to the load cell amplifier, which gives us something to actually read into the Arduino. And above that I have the little laser emitter and receiver, and that's placed so that the prop is going to break the connection between those two, so we can measure RPM with that. Over here we have the battery connection, and this is the ESC for to power the motor, control the motor. So the battery comes in here. There is a hall sensor between the positive rail or positive line, and there's also a little voltage divider in there, just with a couple of normal quarter watt resistors or 1/8 watt, whatever they are, resistors, and that's taking the, so you may be able to see the little black wire coming out of the side there is being used to measure the voltage of the battery. So we've got voltage and current being measured there, and this little blue bit on the side is an analog to digital converter, and that is reading the voltage and also the it's actually a voltage, isn't it, that the Hall effect sensor produces. So there's two voltages there in analog that are being converted to digital and given over the I2C connection by this ADC board here, so that goes into the Arduino as well. And finally in the bottom, or this bit here, I just have one of those 5-volt buzzers that you put on your quadcopter to beep when you change modes. So that's all powered straight from the Arduino. So I guess all of that stuff should be pretty obvious what they do. We want to measure the thrust, the RPM, the voltage, and the current, all while the prop is spinning. Personally, I couldn't give a shit about the RPM. It seems to me that mainly what we're interested in is thrust at the end of the day. How fast the prop has to spin to do that, I don't care. And I don't really care that one prop has to spin faster than the other, because to me it seems it's only that the thrust, what thrust you get for the voltage and the current, that it requires to do it. But I just know that people, and I've already seen this on forums, on RC groups and stuff, people are going to say, but how fast is the prop spinning, I want to know, and stuff. So I put this on at the last minute actually, before I started making the rest of the software, because I didn't want to have to add it later when people started to complain. So anyway, that's my personal gripe out of the way. So let's have a look at the software, because the software is what sort of brings it all together. And of course, the Arduino is not really doing anything much at all. All it's doing is feeding information as fast as it can to the desktop computer. And desktop computers have a lot of power, a lot of memory, and some nice graphics capabilities. So that's why I wanted to have everything done by the desktop computer. And I should mention at this point, one of my motivations of wanting to try this was, you've probably seen Bruce Simpson's RC Model Reviews channel, where he does thrust testing, and he does a little test usually where he makes the motor spin up to 150 grams of thrust. So you need to look at the thrust readout and do a human PID sort of a thing to get the thrust just right. But with this, we can get the computer to do that, and we can script it and automate it, and we can do dozens of tests within about, I don't know, 15 seconds, and then change the prop over and do another one in 15 seconds. Anyway, let me show you instead of talking. All right, this is the app here. Not connected at the moment, but you can see up here we have a list of currently available USB connections, or serial connections, I suppose. I'm making this app with Qt, so it should be easily portable to Windows and Mac as well. And I'm also using the libUSB serial from the SIGROC project, which is also cross-platform. So this should be able to run on Windows and Mac just as well as it's running on Linux at the moment. So anyway, I select my port and I click on there. We get a little beep from the beeper just to notify us that the connection is started. And then we can see some numbers coming in on the right. And in the top left of this black area is the current values of what's currently being read. And the numbers that are following my mouse, if I just stop sampling for a second, numbers that are following my mouse are the raw values that we see in the graph over here. We'll get some better examples in a minute when I run it. But I just connect up a battery. Oops, the battery fell on the floor. Okay. And now we can see that when we spin this. So this is just like a servo tester control there. So let's look at the numbers while we do that, shall we? So we can see. All right, there we go. So these values have been smoothed a little bit. Some of them have been smoothed more than others, just sort of to my liking, really. I guess we might have to add some settings to let people change that for themselves. But in this show display settings checkbox, you can open that to just turn on whichever parts of the graph you might be interested in particular. Voltage is not very interesting, is it? Although we can just see that it sags a little bit. Current and power are almost identical because power is made by multiplying current with the voltage, and the voltage doesn't change much. If you're able to zoom in a bit more on this graph, you can see that they are not perfectly identical. The reason that they stay so matched with each other is that this graph scales as higher values are read in. It will scale so that the highest value is no higher than this point here, just so that everything stays visible on the screen. Anyway, so throttle. So this is you can see this is the throttle inputs that I was giving just before. This is the thrust that we were getting from it. And this is the RPM. RPM is a bit tricky to read because you can't read it as an analog or a floating point kind of value. It's always an integral number of blade passes per read. So this one needs a lot of smoothing. Anyway, so the raw values that I mentioned before, this is probably not going to show up too well in the YouTube video, but when I click the raw values checkbox on, we can see some values, especially the green ones, easy to see. those are the actual values that were read. And the bolder line, or the easier to see line, is the smoothed line. So when I move my mouse across here and we see these numbers changing next to the mouse cursor, those are the raw values. And you can see a little dot. So you can see the green dot is above the smoothed line. So the green dot is showing you the raw value that was actually read. But they tend to jump around a little bit. There's a little bit of noise. Anyway, so this start and stop sampling button here just starts and stops sampling. Right, calibrate sensors. This dialog will let you calibrate your sensors. So for each one, you need to supply 2 readings. The thrust is probably the easiest one to explain this with. So to measure 0, I can just click this now. And then to measure a known weight, I have some known weights which are 100 grams each. I need to put one of those on. So I have one of these, oops, where are we? Weights like that, just with a little bit of fishing line attached to it, so it doesn't have much, so that I should probably do this without the battery attached, to be honest, but just hang that on there. Now I click measure known weight, and we should see this at thrust 99 at the moment. It should go to 100. Right, so that's given me the 2 points so that the program knows what is 100 grams and what is 0 grams, and it can interpolate between them to give you the current thrust. Very important point. You must remove this once you've done that. Don't want to spin up the prop with that on it. No, I haven't done it, I'm just saying. So voltage and current are pretty much the same. I can click this measure 0 at the moment. Oh shit, no I can't, sorry. I just ruined my calibration. Okay, what I need to do, I should disconnect the battery to measure 0, and then I should measure what voltage the battery is. I measured it just before and it's 12.5 exactly. So we've run it a little bit now, so I'll call it 12.46 or something like that. And now I click measure voltage. So I'm probably going into a little bit too much detail already. So let's just cut this video a little bit shorter than that. Okay, so current is basically the same thing. It's a little bit trickier than measuring the other two because you have to actually have the motor spinning and try and keep it at a constant speed, and measure with your multimeter. I use something like this. I just put this between the battery and the connector over there so that there's actually an open circuit, and then I just put my multimeter across here to measure the current. But you have to be quick about it because as you run the motor, the battery voltage sort of gradually goes down and you can't dilly-dally too much to calibrate the current. Anyway, so that's enough about calibration. Start test I'll get to in a second. Define test. This lets us set up a script, if you like. It's not really a script language. It's just a very, very simple shorthand for what you want to do. So at the moment I have a script that does beep for 1 second and then set thrust to 150 grams for 3 seconds. Generally you need to do each of these steps for a second or so to get any meaningful results, because it's going to take about a second for the program to figure out what throttle to give the motor to hold the thrust at 150 grams. So anyway, let's just try this one. Start test. So you can see that was 3 seconds overall, but if I just stop that there. So it's 3 seconds in total, but it took about a second or so, well, almost a second. Actually, there's no time axis on here. Maybe I should add that as well. But it's only the last 2 seconds or so that it was actually managing to hold the thrust at 150 grams, or close to 150 grams. So it's 149 through here. 150, 151, but it's pretty good. And then after it's done that, as it does each step of the test, it will print out in this little box here saying what it was doing, and then I think after each step it prints out this section. It's been a couple of weeks since I last touched this, so it's already starting to be a little faint in my memory. But so during that 3-second span, it managed to take 105 samples that were good samples, and a good sample is within 2% of the goal value. So 150 of these samples along here were within 2% of 150 grams thrust. So using those good samples, we average out the throttle value, the thrust, voltage, current, power efficiency, and so on. So let's try another test. So this little T at the beginning is thrust. If I change that to R, R, and this little section on the right just lets you see immediately if your value, the script that you've entered, is what you thought you were trying to get. So it's just feedback to let you know what is going to be done with this. So if I put something else in, it doesn't know what that is, so it'll just skip it. Anyway, so RPM for 3 seconds. I might make it 4 because it takes a little longer to get to the right RPM, because RPM is smoothed more. So 150 RPM is not going to work. Looking at the one that we just did, it was close to 6,000 RPM. I haven't put any sanity checks in here either, so for now I'm just going to have to choose some values myself that I know are sensible. So let's say 6.5, 6,500 RPM for 4 seconds. So that's my test this time. Start test. So you can see that, well, you could probably hear from the sound of it that it was a little bit more unsteady, because, let's see if we can just look at this a bit more. Yeah, the RPM value is not a smooth value to read. It's sort of, within each sampling period, for example, the propeller will either, let's say it's close to 7.5 times per sample, it's either going to be 7 or it's going to be 8. It's never going to be 7.5 or 7.6 or something like that. So we need to smooth it a lot, and it's just a little bit unsteady. But nevertheless, you can read some values from it. That's another reason why I didn't really want to add RPM, and I won't be probably using it myself. It's very, very tricky to read a good value from it. Anyway, so we have constant thrust, constant RPM. We can also do constant throttle, which I'm calling speed. Well, we're using S instead of a T here because we already have T for throttle. So S is, let's call this speed. And this should be a number between 1,000 and 2,000. So let's try 1150, I think. Oops, 1150. And then another thing we can do is wait. So wait for 1 second. Actually, let's do, so we can try 1100, 1200, 1300 for 3 seconds each, and then we can wait for 1 second, and then we can do, I don't know, constant throttle of 200 grams for 3 seconds. So you could set up a script like this, and then the B is for beep, in case that wasn't obvious. So you can beep for half a second, wait for half a second, and then beep for, let's make it 0.25 there. So it should give us 2 short beeps at the end. Beep, wait, beep. And a wait there. So you can set up a pre-scripted sequence of tests that you want to do like this. So let's run that. There we go. At the moment, I have not really programmed in anything to collect these results into any formatted or structured format. They just sort of print out here, and you can, if you click the export results button, they just print themselves to actually just to the standard out at the moment, but it could easily be put into a file. But the other important thing that I'm hoping to achieve, oh shit, you couldn't see that, could you? Damn it. Okay, I'll just scroll up here so you can see the results of that test again. Sorry about that. It's the same as before, but just with some different numbers. So the export results button will just print out to standard output at the moment. Right, so this last button that we haven't looked at is, let's click on here. So this is where I'm hoping to collect together the results in a pull together everybody's results, so to speak. So the idea is that you would open up this dialog and select from here whatever parts you're using. So there'll be propellers, motors, and ESCs. So these are just some that I've put in here at the moment myself. Just some of the ones that I have. And down the bottom, I need to format this a little bit better so that it doesn't look like inputs so much, but these will be filters so you can find something quickly. So this list is going to get huge up the top. So you might want to filter the list to just something like that. Oops. Oh, of course, the Y key on my keyboard's not working. But let's say you wanted Hobbywing. If you type Hobbywing in there, then the list up here would filter so that you only see products that are made by Hobbywing. And maybe 10 amps to 30 amps or something is the only range of current ESCs you want to look at. So that should make it easy to find things in this list. And same goes for these ones here. You can just filter by the type of stats for that motor that you're trying to look for. So how do things get into this list then is the next question. So I haven't built this part of it yet. I've just entered stuff into a database by hand at the moment, but I'm planning to have a website side to this as well, where you can log into the website, or maybe not even I guess we'll have to have logins so that we don't have people ruining it. But yeah, so log into the website, and if your props are not already registered or your motor is not on there yet or something, you'll be able to add it, and you'll have to enter in the stats here so that we know what kind of motor it is, and people can filter and search and find it themselves when they're doing their test. So that should help us collect together a good set of results for each item. So how are you going to get that from the website into this program? That's what this tab of this dialog does. And I've already done this, of course, because you can see I have stuff in these combo boxes. But the first time you run the program, all of these combo boxes will be empty. So you would come into this tab and then click on here, and it now contacts the web server and pulls in all of those lists of parts along with their stats and updates the combo boxes in the user interface. So if they were empty before, now they will be full. So I guess that's about all I have to say at the moment. So I'm thinking there'll be some more buttons down here at the bottom to maybe submit your results or something like that. And then we'll need to also have some nice graphs on the website to look at to compare different motors and props and ESCs and stuff. Oh, did I? Number of blades. Oh, good. Okay. Yes, that's important, isn't it? Yeah, so I guess the number of blades would have to adjust automatically the RPM number, wouldn't it? So at the moment, those are the tests that I have set up. Constant throttle. Did we try constant throttle? Oh yeah, throttle. Oh, of course we did, yeah. So constant throttle, constant thrust, constant RPM. It would also be possible to do constant power if you wanted to. Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard to do that. Yeah, so at this stage I'm sort of soliciting some feedback as well about what you think might be useful to have in this, because it's still very much in its infancy, and can be changed a little bit based on what people want to see in it. Right, so that's all I have to say, I think. I thought I might just show you at the end here. Watch. Oh no, this battery is quite large. This is a 4000 milliamp hour battery. But when I tried this with a 2200 milliamp hour battery, you could visibly see the voltage dropping quite quickly. So let's see what happens now with this battery. Alright, well you can't see the voltage dropping much, but you can sure as hell see the thrust dropping. That's the yellow one. So at the beginning there we had 411 grams of thrust, and after just, well, maybe 6 or 7 seconds now you've got 372. I was expecting to see the voltage drop a little bit more than that. It hasn't dropped too much. What was it, 1212? 1205. It's just gone down a little bit. But if you do that with a smaller battery, you can really see the voltage dropping quite quickly. Why is the thrust going down so much? Is the ESC getting hot or something? The motor getting hot? Oh yeah, ESC is a little bit warm. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, so yeah, let me know what you think about this, and I'm expecting people like Adam Wilkinson might be interested in setting this up and giving it a try. And also it might be handy for the guy mini quad bench, I think it is, or something like that, who's already doing something like this. So I'll let him know about this. He might want to give it a try too. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.